This video goes over how to play a three-person center midfield, which uses rotation in almost any type of formation. So if we look at a classic three-person center midfield, you have the number 6 who sits deep, the number 8 that sits in front of the number 6, and then you have the number 10 who plays behind the striker. Now that doesn't always have to be the case in the way that you set up your center midfield, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So one of my favorite coaches in the game, Pep Guardiola, has a few sentences about how he looks at the three center midfielders. He says, sometimes we use 2 6s and 1 10, sometimes we use 1 6 and 2 8s, or even 1 6 and 2 10s. Basically what he's saying is he has flexibility in the way that he sets up his three center midfielders, and he's constantly changing that, not to only keep things different so the opponent doesn't get used to it, but also to manage the game in different ways. So before we get into the specific diagrams, let's just review really quickly. So soccer can be more flexible than the classic 6, 8, and 10 in rigid roles in the center midfield. Because if the same players fill the same spaces, the movement becomes predictable and easy for the opponent to read. So this is why rotation and training your players to problem solve and recognize where the spaces are and how to fill the spaces are so important when you're training your three center midfielders. So here we see a three-person center midfield comprised of the 6, the defensive center mid, the 8, and the 10. Now, if you look at the blue lines, you could see that the ball is at the center back. So my number 8 actually drops back even with my number 6, and he patrols the area in between the center back and the left center back. And my number 6 patrols the area between my center back and my right center back, because there's only 3 at the back. This makes the running a lot less on the 6 and 8 because they can split the field and they don't have to run back and forth, as the number 10 stays on top underneath the strikers. Now you can see in this next diagram we've added some rotation to this. So the 6 can actually surge ahead and rotate positions with the number 10. Obviously the number 8 could do the same thing if the number 6 did not. And what that does is allows a different player to fill a different space, so it's less predictable for the opponents, and we have some movement now in the center midfield. So the 6 becomes the 10 and the 10 becomes the 6, and players have to be aware and track men. It becomes a little bit more confusing for the defenders. Now you see we actually have a 6 and 2 8s. This is just another way that you can arrange things. So with this you could see that the number 8 will work out wide, and the other number 8 will work out wide on the opposite side, as the number 6 really sits home and plays that defensive role right in front of the center back. So again, it's a different way to arrange your players. There is no number 10 in this formation, but it's defensively very sound, and the number 6 sits and the 2 number 8s patrol both sides of that field. And you can obviously work some rotation into this, but it's just another way to set up your 3 central midfield players. Now just to build on that last example, now you see that the number 6 pushed out to the left, as the number 8, who was sitting deeper, now pushed into an attacking role, as the other number 8 just held his position. So now you've seen that we've added some rotation and movement into the previous example where we had 1 6 and 2 8s, and now we change it into a 6 and 8, and now the other 8 is operating as a 10. So it's important that you understand that you can adapt your center midfield to fit the game and the situation. In this last example, here's a way you can adapt your center mid to be more attacking minded. So now we push 2 of our center mids up behind the forwards. So now we play a 6 and 2 10s, and obviously you can see that the 6 is really going to stay home as the 10s occupy that higher up space. And it just gives you another way that players can organize a center mid with 3 players, and all these ways to organize the center mids are much different, and this obviously affects the game in a much different way. It's less defensively sound but much more attacking minded. So to wrap up this video, the 3 center mids can adjust their positioning and their tactics to manage the game in different ways. So depending on what's happening in the game depends on their positioning, and rotation and movement of the 3 center midfielders makes it more difficult for the opponents to understand the movement, so the same players aren't filling the same spaces. Now the coach can assign really rigid roles, or he can allow for total flexibility. That really is up to the coach and how he wants to teach the formation and so forth. If you're interested in knowing more about midfield rotation and how it fits into a total formation, a total system, you could check out my books on Amazon.com. I wrote a couple on playing the 3-5-2 and also the 4-2-3-1 and the 4-4-2 diamond formation, along with a 2-6-2 formation. So if all you do is look on Amazon.com under Marcus DiBernardo, and you'll see all my books on soccer formations. Hope you enjoyed the video.